Hello everybody, welcome to Filmmaking. Today my name is Boyan Dulabic, and you must be interested in this little guy. So this is the DJI Osmo Pocket camera, which is a 4K camera shooting at up to 60 frames per second with a fixed aperture of 2.0. So first, let's take a look at the box. This is one of the boxes. There's a couple of versions. This is the soft box. And when you open it up, there's a few things here. So first you are greeted with the actual camera itself, which comes in a case. I'll talk about that in just a second. And then there's a few more things. You got the menu here, the usual mumbo jumbo that none of us care about. Let's put that to the side. And then here we have one more box that contains all the cables and adapters and all that good stuff. So here you will find a few things which are very important. This is the adapter for iPhone, and this is USB Type-C. You got the strap here and charging cable. Now this is the case, which is actually a pretty cool case. It's very sturdy, and this is it. This is the camera itself. So here you put in the adapter to connect it to your phone. There's not that many buttons. On the side here you have a slot for micro USB card, and then there's nothing on the back here and nothing on this side either. On the bottom here's the USB Type-C connection. To turn on the device, you hold the black button for a couple of seconds. It turns on within about 3-4 seconds, and to turn it off you do the same thing. As I mentioned, the case, this is the one that it comes with. It's actually pretty sweet. It's very sturdy. If you do drop it, I'm pretty sure your device will be fine with it. It's a really nice case. Unfortunately, if you attach any kind of peripherals, you're not going to be able to have them while it's inside the case. So you have to detach everything. You can have ND filters, but that's about it. And this is really what makes this camera what it is. It's this gimbal right here. It is truly amazing, and it allows you to do so many different things that a traditional action camera just wouldn't able, or any other camera for that matter, wouldn't be able to do, which is pretty sweet. Alright guys, so here I'm going to show you the menu. It's actually very simple. You basically have to swipe from either up, down, left, or right, and each side reveals a different part of the menu. So let's start with swiping down. Here you have various options. If you swipe to the left, I guess, here this will depend on which what you have selected. So if you have video selected, and depending on which quality setting, you can get the super fine quality setting. For me, I'm shooting 30 frames 4K, so this is useless. It doesn't, yeah, it says right here, so super fine video is not currently available at the current video resolution, so it's kind of pointless. So if we go next, this is the settings one. So here you have a battery. You can calibrate the thing here. A tilt control on off. This is a power right here, auto power off when you want it to turn off. Right now I got it set to 10 minutes. Storage information, anti-flicker, accessories. So if you have any accessories like the wireless module, you can see it here. Also, wherever you are, if you see a little line like here, that means swipe from there and you go back, or push this button underneath here, the black one. You can't see it right now, but it's underneath here. And then you have more. So basically this is info. And then if we swipe one more, you have ketone on off. So that's that. Yeah, so that's that. So if we go, there you go back. This here you can choose if you want to, if you're shooting video, if you want to see the full video 16:9, or if you wanted to crop in and see basically 4:3, I guess. Actually, it's a square. It will be a square image. Which is good if you want to zoom in more, but you are losing a bit on the side. So you just tap and select what you want. This is your autofocus, so autofocus single, or if you click on it, autofocus continue, you know, whatever you like. And then this is the Pro setting, so if you click on it, this is now disabled, and if you click on it or tap on it, this would be enabled if it's full, and I'll show you what that looks like. This is just the brightness of the screen. So I think this is, yeah, this is the first level, second level, and third level. Well, let's go back here, and then this was recently added just a few days ago, well, a week ago, or whenever the update was released. I'm not 100% sure what it does. I think this is if you want to put the Osmo into a case, underwater case. You select this guy. So not really useful for me, but yeah, that's that. So then if we, yeah, so this is swiping down up, swiping down from up. So we got that covered now. Now let's talk about the Pro feature. Like I mentioned, if you enable the Pro feature, you can click on up here and you get these settings. So you can choose color. You can go Cinelike, or you can go normal color. Cinelike D is slightly desaturated, so it helps you when you want to color grade, which is great. Here you can choose the white balance. You can go manual, or you can go auto. So if you go auto, obviously it it'll choose for you, and then you still have your regular settings here. The once you find on every camera incandescent, cloudy, fluorescent, and all that stuff. But if you go back to manual, you can also choose. So you can actually dial in the Kelvin amount. So if you go 5600, that will be your daytime balance. So you can choose that and just click OK. And then if we go back there, you have exposure here. So here you set the shutter speed, and here you set the ISO. Again, you can go auto on ISO as well, and then it'll just pick, to the best of its abilities. So that's that. Let's just go back here and, oh, that's too much. Let's dial it in to maybe 100, so you can actually see something on screen. Okay, and then if we go back, the last one will be volume. So now it's set to auto levels, and then you have now the lowest levels. You have the second, and then the full amount. So you have 3 levels when it comes to that, and that's it when it comes to the Pro mode. So if we swipe from down up, here you have, if you push this button, it will center it. So in this case, it didn't do anything. This button here will rotate the gimbal. So it's the same thing, the equivalent to hitting the black button 3 times. Here you have how fast you want it to follow. So right now this is slow follow, and then here you have fast follow, and then here you have 3 modes. So this is let me see. So this is tilt lock. This is basically where the camera, the gimbal is locked on. You can move it. It moves with the camera, and then you have follow. So this is good if you want to track, if you want to auto track and that kind of stuff. And then here you have your playback menu. So if you swipe down, you can see everything, all the videos and photos you took. And then if you swipe from the left, you can like or delete the image. And at any time you can hit the black button underneath and it'll go back 1 step. So that's that. And then the last one is here. Here you have the different modes. So you have photo, where you can set the ratio and countdown. Now let's go back. Then you have video. Here you can do 4K or 1080, and you have all kinds of frame rates. So 24, 25, 30, even 48, 50, and 60. Let's go back to 30. And then you have slow-mo. So this one is only one option, which means it's ×4. It'll slow it down by ×4. And that's that. And then you have time-lapse. Here you have various things. So you have your traditional time-lapse. Then you have, oops, let's go here, motion lapse, and you have hyperlapse. And then if we go back, you have pano. So pano, you have 2 options. You have 180, which is basically, it'll take 180 degrees, a banner basically. And then 3x3, basically what happens, it'll take 9 images. It'll take 3 rows, and in each image, you will each row you will have 3 images. So that's that in a nutshell. That's the menu. And then if you press the black button, so basically wherever you are like right now we are in pano mode. So as long as you're not in a menu, if you press the black button once, it will go to photo mode. If you press it again, it will go to video mode. So wherever you are, as long as you're not in a menu, it will do that. If you are in a menu, so it's the button right here. If you are in a menu, it will just go back, right? And if you press it twice, it will recenter, and if you press it 3 times, it will rotate the gimbal facing you or facing the other way, wherever you are. And that's basically it. This is what the menu looks like on your cell phone. You have basically the same options, and let's just start. So over here in the right hand corner, if you push this button over here, it will flip the camera. It will just do a 180 basically. If you push the button underneath it, that's basically to center it. It's the same as pushing the black button on the device twice, same thing. And then here you have the joystick, which allows you to move the gimbal up and down, left and right. And then obviously the record button. Over here, we have the home button. So this will get us back to the, the home menu of the actual app. And then below that, you have the follow mode, which is slow or fast, depending on how fast you want to move the gimbal. And then next to that, you have the different gimbal options. So you can go between tilt lock, and then you have the FPV and the follow mode. So these are the options. Underneath that, you have the either auto or manual mode. So if you set it to auto, the camera will take care of all the settings. If you want it manual, you have ISO, shutter, and then below that it'll tell you how much your image is over or underexposed. And then underneath that you have your resolution settings, so you can set to 4K or 1080. You can choose the frame rate and the quality. And then if we go underneath that, you have a lot more options. So if you go to basic, this gives you all these options. So you can choose your format, anti-flicker, whether you want a grid. The grid you don't have on the actual device for obvious reasons. I mean, it's a 1-inch screen, you have overexposure alert, focus mode. And then if you go to Pro, you have a lot more options. So now you can choose the white balance, you can choose the color, you can choose the volume amplification level, and a lot of other options, histogram, and all that good stuff. And then if we keep going, you have gimbal easy control, and then you can calibrate it here. And then if we keep going, you can format the card, you can cache the video if you want it, and that kind of stuff. And then all the way on the right side, you can choose the different modes. So whether you want video, photo, panorama, all that good stuff, you just slide it and it'll just adjust. That's basically the app. Now let's take a look at the time-lapse feature. So when you select that, you have two options. You can select the interval or the duration, and once you select that, this is basically what you get, which is your standard time-lapse feature that honestly most cameras nowadays have. There's nothing special here. It records in as a video, or you can get an image sequence that you put together. In my opinion, something much more interesting than your traditional time-lapse would be a motion lapse, which is also found in the time-lapse section. So when you select motion lapse, what you basically do, you select two endpoints. So you physically move the gimbal to wherever you want, and then you press the plus button, and then you move it to a second point, and you can move it up and down, left or right, whatever you want. If you use your phone, you have actually 4 points that you can select. On the device, you can select 2, and same thing, you select the interval and the duration, and now you get something like this. To me, this is much more interesting, it's more engaging, and it's just cool. You can get a lot of interesting shots if you just move the gimbal. Normally, if you want to achieve something like this with a traditional camera, you would have to have a device that rotates the camera. Now, even if you have that, that only rotates the camera left and right. Here, you can go up and down because you have the gimbal. This shot, for example, I shot from my bedroom, just pointing out the window. So like I said, you can get very creative with this camera because of the gimbal, which is, again, in my opinion, really interesting and something that makes this camera stand out from all the other action cameras, blogging and vlogging cameras, and even DSLRs and mirrorless cameras for that matter. And a last feature that's also found within the time-lapse section is called hyperlapse. Now, once you select this, basically what this does is it speeds up the image, and you can go all the way from ×2 to ×30. And this is what that looks like. Now, unlike just speeding up the image, hyperlapse actually does apply a certain smoothness, which does look different. And also with this feature, you can lock on to a building, for example, while you're walking, and the camera will stay focused. Like right here, I locked onto that tree, and as you can see, the camera is slowly moving to show that tree. And another feature that you don't find in a lot of cameras is slow motion. This will slow it down 4 times. Now, it is only available in 1080p, so you can get it as a 4K image. So if you want to export in 4K, that does suck. Hopefully, they will be able to update that with a future software update, but right now it's only 1080. However, if you export in 1080 like I do, this is pretty sweet. It looks nice, so this image has been color corrected. This is what the slow motion looks like. So now let's take a look at the gimbal and what it feels like when you're walking. This is me walking a normal speed, so I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just walking normal. And as you can see, there's definitely a bit of a up and down motion with the gimbal. So that's something to keep in mind. You're going to have to do what's called a ninja walk, which you can see right here. This is basically when you're walking very carefully. Your steps you're not taking too big steps. You're not moving left and right too much. And when you do that, it looks much nicer. There are accessories that you can buy that will help you with the gimbal. It will basically make the Z motion better. Here I did apply some stabilization of the last shot, and that did smooth out a few things. Now, as you can see, this road is very bumpy. There's, it's not concrete or anything like that. So those types of grounds will always be more challenging as opposed to walking on concrete. So something to keep in mind. Now let's take a look at the panorama mode. So here you have 2 modes. You have the 180 and 3x3. So let's take a look at the 180 first. When you select that, basically what happens, the camera takes 4 images and stitches it together, and still gives you the individual JPEGs and camera raw. And this is what it looks like. It's one big banner. This has been color corrected, so keep that in mind. And it's pretty sweet. Depending on what you're going for, this could work very nicely for a website or anything like that. And then the second one will be the 3x3. So basically what happens when you select this mode and press the record button, what happens, the gimbal will move and it will take 3 images in 3 rows. So this will give you a giant image basically that you can get stitched together or individually, and you can stitch it together in Photoshop like I did. And this is what it looks like, which is beautiful. Now I did tweak this in Luminar 3, so keep that in mind. But regardless, it did give me enough information so that I could stitch this. And this is about 7,000 something resolution, which is pretty sweet. Now, one important thing to mention is the fact that a lot of your video will be overexposed if you don't use ND filters, as you can see right here. There was an image where I didn't use an ND filter, and then I used one here, color graded it, and boom, it makes a huge, huge difference. All of these shots right here are using ND filters. In some cases they're 64, in some cases they're 32. It just depends on how intense the sun is. Now normally this is not an accessories video. I will have one coming up, but to me ND filters are not an accessory. For this guy you will need one for sure. As you can see here, this is an ND16 filter. This was not even a sunny day. It was very cloudy, overcast, that kind of a day, but it was still enough for you to have an overexposed image if you didn't use ND filters. And with video, obviously, that's a problem because you don't have a lot of leeway. Because the aperture is stuck at 2.0, the only thing you can adjust is the shutter speed. And if you push the shutter speed above double than the frame rate, you're going to get a very sharp image that's too sharp, and it's just going to look funky. So that's something to keep in mind. You have to get ND filters. There's just no way around that with this type of a camera. And I will have links in the description for the filters that I'm using. They're not that much, for $30, $40, $50, depending on how many you want. You can get some really nice ones, and that's not that much for sure. Now, when it comes to the overall image quality in terms of video, as you can see right here, I think it's pretty sweet. The dynamic range is decent. This is not going to top a DSLR for sure. Basically, the sensor is what you would find in a really high-end phone. You know, it's a small sensor. There's no doubt about that. You're not getting a lot of depth of field here. Even if you have an object very close to the lens, the background will be blurred out a bit, but you're not getting a lot of depth of field, that's for sure. But when it comes to the overall quality, it is nice. If you shoot in the flat profile, the CD Cinelike mode, it's not as flat as I would like it to be, but it still allows you to color grade enough. As you can see here, all of these shots have been color graded, and it definitely does make a difference, and it allows you to push the image. You know, like I said, it's not as much as you would be able to do with a DSLR or mirrorless camera, especially if you're shooting you know, something like a ProRes or Camera Raw. Obviously you can't push it that far, but you can do quite a lot if you, as long as you shoot in a flat profile. So just something to keep in mind. And aside from that, I mean, to me, image quality for video, I think it's great. I think you can definitely use this as B-roll shots for professional work for sure, especially if it's landscape and those types of shots where depth of field doesn't really matter. I think you can get some really nice quality out of this guy. All right, folks, so we're going to test out the audio right now. So this is audio coming from the device itself. Now, I'm at a park, so it's pretty wide open here, and you can see birds in the background. There's some cars driving by here that you will probably hear. So let's just walk around and hear what this sounds like. So I'm going to do a 360, and to hear what this sounds like. The mic is right in front of me, so this should be the best sound, and let's hear what it sounds like as I'm moving. The camera will track me, so let's keep moving. Right now, so I'm on the other side, 180. The camera will lose track of me at some point here, so somewhere around here. Okay, this is almost a 360, so I'm just gonna walk back and go the other way. I don't want the camera to lose me, so I'm still walking, talking. I'm about 3 feet away from the device. Okay, back at the same spot. Now let's go the other way. Again, camera's going to lose me somewhere around here. And okay, so this is the 360, and let's go back, and okay, here we are. So that's what it sounds like. I'm going to walk back now. So like I said, 3 feet, I don't know, about 4, 5, 6, about 10 feet away. I'm talking with the same volume. I'll walk back even further. This is probably, I don't know, it's got to be 20 feet, something like that. And okay, so I'm going to stop here. If you can hear anything at this point, that's pretty damn good, because I'm, I don't know, I'd say about 20 feet away-ish. So I'm going to walk back now, and then you can hear the difference as I'm approaching. So I'm coming closer right now. I'm back to almost the same distance, and here we are about same distance, which is about 3 feet. So that's the audio. It's not great. I mean, no built-in mic is great. They all suck. But honestly, from my experience, this one is the best out of all the built-in mics. Certainly the cameras that I have, the G85 Panasonic, the well, the Blackmagic is horrible. The original Blackmagic Pocket camera, and the Olympus OMD EM5 Mark II, not great. So yeah, this is the audio. So next, let's take a look at the active tracking feature. First, I'm going to do a 360. I'm going to walk around the camera and see how well it tracks me. So I'm locked onto my face right now. So let's keep walking, walking. Okay, almost at a 360, and somewhere here it will lose me. It can't do quite a 360. So if we go back, it locks onto my face. And we can go back right here. Dum dum dum. There we go. Okay. So that's good. If we keep moving, keep going up, keep going down, it is tracking me nicely. So if you are moving at a relatively normal speed, it can definitely track you. Now let's obscure my face and see if that will actually screw this thing up. So let's kind of do whatever I can. Yeah, is it still working? Okay, so it's still working, right? Even if I obscure my face, it still seems to be working, which is pretty sweet. Now, in order to select your target, if you're doing it on the device, you just double tap on screen. On the actual phone, you draw a shape, a rectangular shape or a square, and it will track that. Obviously on the phone you have more screen real estate. On the device you're very limited, right? So I'm just gonna keep walking here. Now let's do some really fast movements and see how it will keep up with me. So if I go, oh look at that, found me. So I go here, okay, and boom. Okay, now it lost me. See if we can find me. Hello. Okay, so this time it didn't. Now I tapped on to the device and okay, we seem to be okay now. So sometimes it will find you when you're lost, and sometimes it won't. I guess it just depends how quick you move. I mean, as you can see, I was moving pretty quick, you know, right now. That's pretty quick. And oh, yeah, okay, so it lost me. No. Okay, so double tap. Okay, we're back in action. So yeah, that's active tracking. It works pretty damn good. Is it perfect? No. But if you move relatively at a normal speed, even if you are moving faster, right, it will track you. It will find you. So that's cool. All right, now let's take a look at the low light performance and see how this guy performs. So here we have an image with ISO 100, zoomed in 400%, and I mean, this is fine. There's no noise here. It's all fine, which is to be expected with ISO 100. When you push it to 200, you start to notice a little bit, but it's still fine. It's definitely acceptable, no doubt about that. Now, once you push it to 400, again, it's still fine in my opinion. A little bit of noise, but it's fine. Now, let's see what it looks like once you push it to 800. Now, once it's at 800, you can still use it in my opinion, but it's one of those situations where if you can avoid it, I would, because you can definitely start to see more noise now. Now, when we push it to 1600, yeah, there's a lot more noise. So I wouldn't push it to 1600 unless you really, really have to. But if you don't, stay away from 1600. And then when it comes to 3200, I mean, the image just falls apart, as you can see right here. I really don't think you need to push it to 3200. There's really no way to make that look nice. And then here's some footage. This is ungraded footage straight from the camera. As you can see, there's some really harsh shadows here. And then here it is graded. Now, this situation looks actually pretty nice. Yes, there's harsh shadows, certain areas are lit. It's supposed to be dramatic. In my opinion, it actually looks pretty nice here. All of these shots have been color graded. Like I said, it looks pretty nice. There's definitely enough of a dynamic range between the light and the dark areas, and I think there's even the areas that are lit just a little bit, it's still enough for you to see. And with color grading, you can push it just to the right amount where it looks pretty sweet. Now, when it comes to images, same as video, you can get some really nice quality out of it. Even at 800 ISO here, you know, I think there's definitely some nice areas of these images. I still wouldn't recommend shooting at 800, you know, a lot, only if you really have to. Yes, there's even a shot at 1600 that looked okay, but I wouldn't recommend that. 400 is what I would, you know, I would push that to the max there. I preferably stay at 200 or 100. But again, it just depends on the situation. But all in all, when it comes to images, again, dynamic range is pretty good. It gives you a lot of leeway. It does produce DNG RAW files and also JPEGs. The one thing that is a little bit stupid in my opinion, you can't shoot just DNG RAW. You can either do JPEG or DNG RAW and JPEG together. I care about the RAW file. I don't really care about the JPEG file. So every time I shoot, I basically, when I transfer over, I just have to, you know, I have to delete all the JPEGs and you know, just get the raw file. So it's not a deal breaker, but just something to keep in mind. But all in all, image quality, excellent. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. As you can see, this camera is pretty sweet, and I tried to cover every aspect of it, and that's why it took longer, because there's a lot to cover here. Yeah, all in all, I think this thing is amazing. I truly love it. The number one reason, and this is my opinion, why I got this guy is the gimbal. Okay, the quality of it is fine, but the quality by itself is nothing groundbreaking. Even if you get the best phone these days, it'll come very close to the quality, might even be on the same par. I mean, it's a small phone-like sensor, so that's not the reason. The features of it are great, although some of the features are linked to the gimbal, like motion lapse, so gimbal. That to me is the number one reason why I got this guy, and it's incredible. It allows me to do a lot of things that my professional camera, my Panasonic one that I'm using to shoot this right now, can't do because of the gimbal, right? Unless I use a jib or other contraptions to compensate for it, which definitely will work. But look at the size of this. That makes a difference. So that's why I got this. Now, who is this thing for? And it's tied into the gimbal. Well, I'll tell you who it's not for. It's not for anyone looking for an action camera. If you're looking for an action camera, this is not for you. And yes, it's because of the gimbal, okay? Even though this is very sturdy, this thing right here is not designed to be, put on a helmet, use in extreme situations like you would a GoPro or the Osmo Action, which is what I would recommend to anyone who wants an action camera. Get the Osmo Action, get any of the GoPro ones, get any of the bajillion action cameras out there. They will do, in my opinion, a better job because they are designed to be rugged and all that stuff. This thing is not. Now, who is this for then? Well, it's for everyone else, basically. So if you are a indie filmmaker, if you are a videographer, you can make this thing work. This can be your best friend. I wouldn't use this as my A camera, okay? Unless you're starting off, you got no money, sure, go ahead. That's all you got. I think it will serve you well. But for everyone else, I would use it as a B or C camera to get specific shots, right? You have to understand its limitations. The fact that there's no zoom here, the fact that you are stuck at the 2.0 f-stop, right? So you have to compensate for that. So all of these things, as long as you understand that, this can be your best friend. If you're shooting a wedding, and maybe you got two videographers, right? Well, you can set this guy up on a tripod. You can get some really cool shots, even if it is, and I've done this. To get B-roll shots, if you want to get a nice time-lapse sequence, right? Maybe I'm just picturing you're in church, wedding. You set this up. At the end of it, you get a nice time-lapse of people just moving, blah blah blah. And maybe you want to use that, stuff like that. You can use it very well, or get a nice time-lapse of the clouds, whatever the hell. There's tons of things you can do. If you're an indie filmmaker, my God, man, if I had this guy when I was shooting my zombie flick project Eugenics, which you can watch on my YouTube channel right here. Thank you. If I had this guy back then when I was shooting that movie, my God, the shots I could have done, man. Incredible. This is your friend. Indie filmmakers, check this guy out. This is your friend. So that's that. If you are the dad who wants to film, or the mom who wants to film your kids, right? Home videos, that kind of stuff. Really cool. You can make use of this. It's tiny. You can just put it in your pocket. Even with this guy, I mean, it just slips right in. Boom, boom, close. This is very tiny, very tiny. And just a side note, this thing is incredible. When I when I saw the box that this came in, because there's two different types of boxes from my understanding. There's the soft box that I have, and then there's a hard shell box. When I realized that this thing came in the soft box, I was convinced this is broken. Because there's no way, because it came in a flimsy, more or less glorified envelope, and I was convinced this thing is gone, done. I opened it up, and when I saw that, you know, it's got this, that the case is this, like this, I was fine. I was like, this is not broken, because this case, and I know I'm going on about a freaking case on, but it's important. I have no problems putting this in my pocket, even if I'm running around, whatever I'm doing, I know this will be protected. So important. So that's who it's for, in my opinion. Now let's talk about just a few things that are important to notice, to understand. First of all, let me put this away. First of all, can you use this camera by itself without a phone? Yes, except for two things, and they're important. Number one, you have to use it to set it up, and you have to use it to get firmware updates. So you have to use your phone for that. So number two, and I don't know why this is the case, if you want to do a time lapse, whether it's a regular time lapse or a motion lapse, if you want to do that, and if you want to switch it to output JPEG sequences as opposed to the 1080p video, because the JPEGs are 4K, you have to use your phone to switch that around. That's freaking annoying. That's how it used to be when you bought this thing. You had to use your phone to do all the pro settings. They fixed it with the firmware update. So I'm hoping that will be fixed with the firmware update as well, because that's really annoying. So some to keep in mind. Also, the display, while it's great, it is a 1-inch display. So sometimes I take a photo or video and I'm like, this looks like crap. And then I look at it on my phone, on my computer, and I go, okay, this is better. So sometimes you might want to hook up your phone and just view things there just to make sure it's all good. So that's that. In my case, I have a micro USB phone, not a USB-C. So everything you saw here, except for like 1 or 2 shots, was shot on this guy. I didn't use a phone, so it is doable. But in my case, because I have the micro USB phone, I have to get a little creative, and I'll talk about that more in my accessories video. There are ways to work around that, but something to keep in mind. Also, I am getting the wireless module, so I'll talk more about that, so just stay tuned for that video. So that's that, guys. If you understand the limitations, this guy can be used. It can be used professionally. I would challenge anyone who gives me any BS that you cannot use this professionally. I have used it professionally. As long as you understand its limitations, again, as a B/C camera, it can work very, very nicely. So I think that's it. That's all I got, guys. Stay tuned for more. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, tell all your friends, hit that bell icon to be notified of future videos and all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more. Thanks.